Welcome to WireMock Cloud Academy. gRPC is a modern, open-source, high-performance, remote procedure call framework. Like REST and XML-based APIs, gRPC dependencies can slow down the development and testing of their consuming applications. WireMock Cloud allows you to mock gRPC dependencies to help solve these constraints. Next, I will demonstrate how you can get started mocking gRPC endpoints in WireMock Cloud. gRPC endpoints start with a Proto file. The Proto file describes the gRPC service much like an OpenAPI specification describes a RESTful OpenAPI endpoint. We can see here that this service, the booking service, contains a booking request and a booking response definition in the Proto file. Given this Proto file, we'll convert it into a descriptor file required by WireMock Cloud to do the virtualization. We'll use Proto C to accomplish this. As you can see from the command line, the Proto C execution requires an argument of descriptor set out, the name of the descriptor file that will be generated, and the Proto file that will be used to generate the descriptor file. After running this, we will have a descriptor file in our directory. We can now come into WireMock Cloud, create a new mock API, choose the gRPC mock type, give it a name, and we'll be presented with the screen to upload our descriptor file. We'll find the file that we just generated, my-api.dsc, and open it. We'll then upload it to WireMock Cloud. Once we received our green upload button, we can come into our stub configuration screen. When we hit New Stub, we will be presented with a familiar screen where we will configure the request and the response. In a gRPC style mock, we'll have to select the service name, in this case, booking service, as we saw in our Proto file, and the method that we are interested in stubbing. In this case, booking. gRPC mocks use JSON payloads for matching and response building. We'll add a body matcher, and we'll just accept the default for now. Then we can come down to our response and choose what status should be returned. If we choose an OK status, then we will go ahead and configure the response body. If we choose any other status than OK, we can optionally supply a status reason. You'll also notice that dynamic response templating is available in gRPC style mocks. Upon hitting save, we've created our first gRPC mock. Let's take a look at an example. In this one, we have 3 different mocks, 1 successful and 2 not successful. In our first one, we can see we are going to be using the booking service again with the method booking. We're going to use some body matching and ensure that the ID being passed in the body does not equal canceled and does not equal bad response. If it is any other value, then the mock will respond with an OK status with dynamic response templating enabled, and then we'll build out our response body using handlebar helpers. Let's see this in action. Open up our test requester. We can see our ID right now is ROV9, and when I hit send, we get a response back with our now timestamp and a random number of participants being returned. If I hit send again, we can see those participants being generated randomly as we've specified in the response body. Let's take a look at some negative scenarios. For the canceled example here, we'll use the booking service and the booking method. And in this case, our body matcher will be if the ID is equal to canceled. The response will be a status of canceled, and the status reason will be request was canceled. You'll see that there's no body configuration here. Let's go ahead and try this in our test requester. We'll update our ID and specify canceled. And when we send this, we'll see status canceled. Request was canceled for unknown reason, just as we've configured it in WireMock Cloud. In our last example, we'll take a look at the validation that is built into gRPC mocking. In this case, we'll look to see that the ID is equal to bad response. And if that's the case, we'll try to send back status OK with the body as we saw before. But in this case, our participants is spelled with a Z rather than an S. Let's see what happens. When I change the ID to bad response and hit send, we no longer receive a status OK. Instead, we receive a status unknown with an application error processing RPC. This is because our response body does not conform to the Proto definition that we started out with in the beginning. Our response body must contain a participants with an S array, not a participants with a Z array. Because we've tried to configure this mock API response with a participants containing a Z rather than an S, the validation mode kicks in and returns a status unknown application error processing RPC response instead of the false positive that we tried to configure in the mock API. Lastly, I want to point out how this process can be automated. We have a sample project found in the WireMock Inc. GitHub repository called WireMock-Cloud-gRPC-examples, as you see here on the screen. This project demonstrates how using something like GitHub Actions, when a new Proto file is checked into a project, the GitHub Actions can automatically generate the descriptor file and upload it into your existing WireMock Cloud gRPC mock API. In this way, your gRPC mocks will always be up to date with the current specification that's checked into your source code control. As you've just seen, WireMock Cloud allows you to mock gRPC endpoints quickly and easily. Try it yourself with a free forever account at wiremock.io.